Welcome in, episode 116 of What's Right with Nick Wright, the podcast and YouTube show. If you're watching right now live on YouTube, we greatly appreciate you. If you're not watching live on YouTube, but you want to be able to watch our future episodes live on YouTube, make sure you click the bell after you subscribe. That way you get an alert whenever we go live, usually 10:35-ish, Mondays and Thursdays. Wildcard weekend is upon us. We have a ton to do, and I have made the commitment that today we're going to have a tight show. We're not going over. We're going to get through it. It's a good test for myself because we got a lot to get to, and I want to get to all of it as efficiently as possible. Here is what we're not getting to in today's show. Damar Hamlin, released from the Buffalo Hospital. I think there's a chance he's at the game this weekend, and that would be one of the greatest, loudest moments ever. I also think there's a chance maybe they wait on that moment and do it in the next round when they would be playing Cincinnati. But I think it's happening at some point that Damar is leading them out of the tunnel. The Heat set a record shooting 40 of 40 from the free throw line. I'm not interested in that at all. And, of course, listen, this is the College Football National Championship game was a great example of, even though I don't talk about something regularly, doesn't mean that I don't know a ton about it. Told you guys Georgia's going to roll TCU. Told you Georgia has 20 to 25 pro guys. TCU's got 5. It was the most lopsided national championship game in history, 65-7. Put that in the same bucket as, do you remember, Damonza, about 4 months ago? I'm not off to a great start on hitting the clock, by the way, because I'm about to go on a minor tangent. Do you remember about 4 months ago when I randomly did about 10 minutes about Walgreens locking up everything, claiming they were just being ruined by thefts, and how I thought they were crying wolf and they were getting the American public, up in arms about shoplifting? As I know you do, I was reading the Wall Street Journal a few days ago, and the Walgreens CEO had some nice quotes about how maybe we over-exaggerated the amount of thefts. We shoot for. Say it again.
It was like racism.
No, it was. I think it was. I don't think it was about race. I think it was about them just crying wolf, saying, "Oh no, we're going to be going bankruptcy due to the thefts." When in reality, any of those large chains, they hope for a shrinkage rate of about 2.5%, and Walgreens was a touch over 3%. Meanwhile, they also, don't look here, but had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in a settlement because, our pharmacists were just passing out opioids like candy, and we have a giant drug crisis in America. But hey, that's another of those things Nick doesn't talk about a lot. Doesn't mean I'm not on top of the whole thing. All right, let's get to the show, Damonza.
All right, so as we all know, Lamar Jackson's been out with an injury for the last month or so.
Yes.
Still very questionable for the game Sunday, but it seems highly unlikely that he plays.
Crazy, yeah.
Tyler Huntley didn't throw on Wednesday either, so that's not great news for Baltimore.
Yep.
It probably means their third-string quarterback's going to be playing again.
Old Anthony Brown. Damonza doesn't want to say Anthony Brown's name because he's worried Anthony Brown might watch the show and have his feelings hurt. But go ahead.
Baltimore made the playoffs this year, but Lamar had a mediocre to bad season.
Sure. After a great start.
Exactly. That's why I call it mediocre.
Yeah, through 3 weeks looked like league MVP.
Right.
Then tailed off a bit, particularly passing the ball. Now, granted, he had no receivers once again, and now he's hurt at the end. But go ahead.
Right. But they basically have no shot to win anything without Lamar. Yep. Was this season a worst-case scenario for both sides?
I mean, I think that's a good way to put it, and I think it's trending towards that.
Yeah.
I think the worst case for Lamar would be, other than catastrophic injury,
right,
was he gets injured, and he's unable to finish the year for the second straight year. The worst-case scenario for Baltimore was he gets injured, and we once again proved we can't survive without him. Right. So this is one of those spots where I don't think either side is being wholly unreasonable. I don't think it is unreasonable for Lamar to say, I want the same contract structure Deshaun Watson got. I've accomplished more in this league than Deshaun. I've certainly been a better citizen than Deshaun. I'm not on my second team. I'm better. I want a fully guaranteed deal. I think that's reasonable. I also, and this is something a lot of the media seems afraid to say, and I don't know why. I have an idea why, but I'm going to try to stick to the clock, so I'm not going to get into the full depth of it. I think a lot of people agree with me when I say this. If I were Baltimore, I would be very nervous about giving Lamar Jackson $200+ million fully guaranteed, because you do worry about his style of play leading to injury. You do worry about the fact that he has not seemingly evolved as a passer, and you do worry that if you pay him at that level, are you going to be able to put the requisite pieces around him on both sides of the ball to compete for a championship? And you do worry that he's not going to have a prime that goes deep into his 30s. And I understand a contract, you wouldn't have to worry about that. You'd only have to worry about the next 4 or 5 years. So I get why Lamar wants it, and I get why Baltimore would be hesitant to give it. However, if Lamar doesn't play in these playoffs, I think anyone that is acting like it's not on the board of potential outcomes that Lamar has played his last game as a Raven are kidding themselves. So I understand. I talked with Chris Broussard about this on television yesterday. He was like, they'll just franchise tag him. I want the audience to understand something. Lamar didn't get the contract he wanted going into this year. Some people suggested he hold out, just not show up, right? That is incredibly unwieldy and incredibly punitive for the player under the current collective bargaining agreement. I hate to be so in the weeds here, but this is something we don't have the space to give the full details on television, but I have a little more time to do it here. If you hold out when you're under contract, the fines are upwards of $40,000 a day. And if you hold out long enough, your contract can toll, meaning it's not like, okay, I'll hold out all year and then that'll count for a year on my contract and then next year I'm a free agent. No, the contract can toll, meaning it's like this year didn't happen and then you have the exact same 1 year left on your contract for next season. So that's the initial problem. The other problem is this. It is one thing to hold out. And again, this is nerdy CBA stuff, but I think it helps people understand the real nuances of this. It's one thing to hold out, meaning to never show up. But Lamar showed up to training camp, I think, believing he was going to get a new deal. They were negotiating, right? But then it didn't get done. If you show up and then hold out, that is even worse as far as how punitive it can be, because that's called leaving the team. So if you show up to the facilities for weeks and then leave because you're holding out, it is even more damaging as far as what the team can do to you from a punitive standpoint, because it's like you're AWOL. So once Lamar showed up, he was always going to end up playing this year because he's under contract. The franchise tag, on the other hand, is a totally different situation. And what I mean by that is this. They can franchise tag him, it'll be like $45 million. But he's not under contract until he signs it. If he refuses to sign it, they can do nothing to him. He just can't play. They can't fine him. There is no contract to toll. It's not even a holdout.
Interesting.
It's just him saying, I won't sign this. You can tag me, but I won't sign it. And if he doesn't sign it, then they have no recourse. Now, would he be willing to sit out a full season? I don't know. Who was it? Not LaShawn McCoy. Le'Veon Bell did it and ended up getting a great contract from the Jets. Now his career went sideways after that. We've seen guys do it. I think his name was Gilbert, Sean Gilbert maybe. There was a D tackle for the Panthers who did it a long time ago. They will be playing a very dangerous game. One other note here that is, I think, why we are trending towards a split between the Ravens and Lamar. There's a lot of reasons people have agents, Damonza. I think you'll find this really interesting. And most people think, oh, they negotiate my deals for me, they get me the most money, all of it. The other reason people have agents is to protect the relationship between the employee and the employer. So, when you are in contract negotiations, the employer who wants to pay you less makes the case as to why you're not as valuable as you think. So I'll give a real life example, but I won't name names. I have a good friend of mine who's in the media business who just went through what ended up being a pretty contentious contract negotiations. Now, his agent told him this. I would argue his agent probably shouldn't have told him this. But when he was saying, I thought I was going to get paid X, why are they offering Y? His agent's like, well, they said the last 6 months, your ratings, it might have been 3 months, have been not, your ratings haven't been in the spot they wanted it to be in. They were arguing why he wasn't quite as valuable as he thought he was. Now, his agent shouldn't have told him that, but set that aside. But that pissed him off, made him dig in. Here's why I bring this up with Lamar. Lamar is representing himself. So when Lamar goes in to negotiate, and Lamar's family goes in to negotiate with him, and he's like, I want $200 million guaranteed. Why won't you give it to me? The answer is, well, and then they list his weaknesses as a player. He's the one hearing that.
Right.
So for all of those reasons, I think it is on the board that a team that wants to pay Lamar makes a Godfather offer to the Ravens, and he is traded. And I think it is on the board, if he does not play this weekend, that he has played his last game as a Raven. Because if the Ravens didn't want to give him a fully guaranteed contract before this year, you think they're going to be more apt to when he's hurt again and once again doesn't evolve as a passer? I don't. All right, I said we were going to go faster. I just went 10 minutes on the first topic. Next!
Crazy. All right, with questions at quarterback and head coach, Dallas is in a make-it-or-break-it game against the Bucs on Monday. After a hot start to the season, hopes of a deep playoff run are slim.
Dwindling, yeah.
What's the best case scenario for Dallas fans? A playoff win and validation of the season for the first time since 2017, or a blowout to Tom Brady and a reason to fire Mike McCarthy for Sean Payton?
Okay. Go ahead.
Even our resident Cowboys fan and producer Kara doesn't know what to root for.
All right, here's the deal. I think you're in the playoffs. I think you have to root for the win, especially because you are not guaranteed to get Sean Payton.
Right.
A lot of people. Now, would I trade a playoff win for Sean Payton over Mike McCarthy? Probably. Now, it should be noted, Sean Payton and Mike McCarthy have almost identical win-loss records in this league. They both have won one Super Bowl. They both had 4 seasons where they were under 500. But I do think Sean Payton's better, and he would get the most out of Dak. The problem for the Cowboys, and if you win, you're probably going to Philly, and I think the Cowboys can win that game.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're in the conference championship game for the first time in 27 years since Troy Aikman was there. So you're rooting for a win. The problem is, the bigger picture question for the Cowboys is, did Dak Prescott peak as a rookie? You weren't watching football at this time, but Dak Prescott was not supposed to be the starter. He was 4th-round pick. Tony Romo was supposed to be the starter. Tony Romo got hurt. They had to go to Dak. He got hurt in the preseason. They had to go to Dak right before the year. Dak had 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. They went 13-3, had the number 1 seed, and lost an epic playoff game to Aaron Rodgers where Dak was fantastic. So that year, his rookie year, he made the divisional round. He made a Pro Bowl. That was 2016. So now we have seasons 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So his rookie season, Pro Bowl, divisional round. In the 6 years since then, he has made the Pro Bowl one other time. He has been in the divisional round one other time. He has led the league in any major passing category one time, and that was this year, and the category was interceptions. Dak Prescott is fine. Is he great? No. Is Dak Prescott Kirk Cousins with a better marketing agent? Maybe. Dak Prescott, forget throwing for 5,000 yards. He's thrown for 2,000 yards twice. He's thrown for more than 30 touchdowns once. This should be his moment. He's the veteran quarterback in the conference with no quarterbacks. You name the best quarterbacks in football, other than Jalen Hurts, who had a great year. How many you got to list before you have a second NFC quarterback? You say Mahomes, you say Burrow, you say Allen, you say Lamar, you say Herbert, you say the Prince. Jalen Hurts is mixed in there. So Deshaun Watson is in the AFC, even though Deshaun's terrible this year. Hasn't been good in a couple of years. Well, hadn't played. And so the Cowboys paid Dak like he's great. If he's just as Bill Simmons was on this, and I give him credit, if he's just Kirk Cousins with better PR, are you stuck? Maybe. And I think they lose to the Bucs. I think the Bucs are going to be in the NFC Championship game. Bucs-Niners NFC Championship game. It's just a nightmare for me. Next.
All right, your NFC Super Bowl pick is San Francisco.
Yeah.
They're huge favorites this weekend against Seattle, obviously. But after this weekend, I can't decide if they're a Super Bowl lock or a risky bet.
Yeah.
On one hand, their defense is the best in the league, and they face Geno and then maybe Cousins.
Yeah.
On the other hand, no rookie quarterback has ever made it to the Super Bowl, let alone a third-string rookie.
Yeah.
Not enough people are talking about Brock Purdy. Is there a chance we're watching an all-time sports story unfold in front of our eyes? Or will he melt down in the playoffs like every other rookie quarterback in the NFL history?
Okay, so the rookie part is interesting because first 5 games as a starter, the only quarterbacks to put up the numbers Purdy has put up his first 5 games as a starter are Kurt Warner and Patrick Mahomes. Okay? Both of those guys were not technically rookies. Mahomes sat his rookie year, remember?
Right.
And Kurt Warner, you don't know the Kurt Warner story. It happened the year after you were born. Kurt Warner was literally bagging groceries.
Was he the quarterback for the Vikings?
For the Rams.
Oh.
He was literally bagging groceries. Got on a practice squad, bounced around a bit, never played. Was the backup quarterback for the Rams in 99. In the preseason, Trent Green goes down. He comes in, and Damonza, they are the highest scoring team at that point in NFL history. He wins league MVP. He wins the Super Bowl.
That's really fun.
It was unbelievable. Then, by the way, 2 years later, they make another Super Bowl as a huge favorite. They lose to a kid named Tom Brady and the Patriots, who, again, Brady, not a rookie, a second-year guy, but technically a rookie. He played fine. Kurt Warner's career then falls apart. Goes to the Giants, is no good. Gets another chance with the Cardinals when everyone's written him off. Makes another Super Bowl. They lose it to the Steelers. And it's an unbelievable story from out of nowhere. So here's why I mention it. Mahomes was not a rookie, but he essentially was, and was awesome his first playoff run. Kurt Warner was not a rookie, but essentially was awesome his first playoff run. Purdy is on a list with those guys as far as first 5 starts. Is Purdy, Mahomes, or Kurt Warner? Obviously not. However, he doesn't need to be. The Niners have the best skill position guys in the league. They have the best running game in the league. They have far and away the best defense in the league. Do I think there's a chance he has a playoff meltdown? Sure. However, not in week 1 against Seattle. And once he gets a playoff win, he's in great shape as far as feeling more confident. The next game is guaranteed to be at home. Now, would I be nervous for Purdy against the Eagles defense on the road? Sure. But I think the Eagles are going to lose before then. So I think Purdy's going to be at home the whole time. So I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be in the Super Bowl. I think I'm going to cash my 50-1 Chiefs-Niners Super Bowl future. What's up?
So we've got a poll. Will Brock Purdy make it to the Super Bowl? 52% say yes, 48% say no.
Yeah, I mean, but think about what that means. That means half our audience will take San Francisco over the field.
Yeah.
Half our audience will say San Francisco versus All the other teams in the NFC, they'll take San Francisco. That's the clock. I said we were going to be efficient, and we're in overtime already. All right, last one.
All right, so we know you're picking the Jags and the Prince that was promised.
How do you know that? You don't know that? All right, I'm picking the Jags. Go ahead.
Yeah, but are we sure you have the right Prince? Tall, big arm, flowing golden hair quarterback. Are you sure the prophecy wasn't just talking about Justin Herbert? They do got a lot of similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're not switching up your Jags pick, but if Herbert wins, isn't he the real quarterback prodigy and not Trevor Lawrence?
No. Herbert's awesome. I'm not one of these lunatics that was I shouldn't say that. These are some of my good friends that were doing this. I take like lunatics. I'm not one of these folks that were arguing Tua's better than Herbert. Herbert's excellent. However, when it comes to prodigy, I know people don't like when I do this, but I will do it anyway. Justin Herbert was out of high school, the number 8 player in the state of Oregon. Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 player in the world. In college, Justin Herbert won a Pac-12 championship 1 time. Trevor Lawrence won the ACC championship 3 times and a national championship 1 time and played for another. Now, the Chargers are a better team than the Jags. They have more weapons, they have a better defense, they're getting healthier. So if Trevor were to lose, that is not an indictment on him. I don't think he's going to lose. But this is another example. Like, Mahomes has won a Super Bowl, been to another one, is about to have a second league MVP. Burrow, in his 1 year as a starter, went to the Super Bowl. This year hasn't positioned great. Allen played 2 of the best playoff games any quarterback's ever played in his 2 playoff games last year. He's been to a conference championship game. They're poised to go on another run this year. Those guys are all in the AFC with Herbert and Lawrence, plus Lamar. Like, the AFC quarterback picture is so top-heavy, and I think Trevor is better right now, in my opinion. If you were to say the 5 best quarterbacks in the league this year, as far as the season they had, I think you would have to rank it. Mahomes, Burrow, Hurts, Allen, Trevor Lawrence. And Justin Herbert, I think, would be 6th. So, they're both excellent. I think the Jags are going to win this game. I like the Jags at home. I like the Jags to come to Arrowhead in round 2 in a game that, if it takes place, I might just have to fly in for. Mahomes versus Trevor at Arrowhead with a conference championship.
I can get my driver's license.
Oh, did they not send it to you?
No, I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah, that's probably the best off the pod. Damonza lost his driver's license a year ago, and it's not been a problem because he doesn't drive in New York, but he's now realizing he's about to move to L.A. and needs his physical copy of his driver's license, and that has been By the way, you know what? Let's just take a moonshot here.
Russ.
No, this is what I mean. If anyone listening or watching to this works in the Missouri Department of Motor Vehicles, we would love. It is still active, it is still valid, and we have all the paperwork necessary. What we don't want to do is have to go take a physical trip to Kansas City to go to the DMV. If anyone can help us get a copy of Damonza's driver's license, a physical copy, so when he gets to L.A., he can buy a car easily, we will be eternally indebted to you.
Please.
Please. It would be so great.
Wait, what if I have a piece of paper? What if I have my driver's license on a piece of paper in my center console in my car?
I mean,
does that work if I'm trying to rent a car?
Maybe.
Okay.
But let's hold on hope that we can get the actual thing. All right, that was that. We'll come right back and play a game. What's right?
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 116. I'm tweeting out the link to this right now, and I'm also including in the tweet a plea to anyone in the Missouri DMV to please help him with his lost driver's license.
So amazing.
That would be so great. That would be like the coolest thing that's happened to you from this show. And so, oh, look at this. Do you see this? I don't want to say it. Don't say his name because I don't want to get it. But I'll just say the first name. Marquise says, my sister works at redacted DMV. Let me work my Luca magic. Oh, this would be unbelievable.
Thanks, dude.
This would be unbelievable. And if anyone can help, tweet at Damonza rather than me because it'll be seen more easily. Because I've had to filter so many of my Twitter responses because people are so mean to me. Can I show you what this... I did something stupid. And I checked... Stop texting. And I checked my Twitter... Not Twitter. So people can't DM me on Twitter unless I follow them.
You checked your... Oh, okay.
My Instagram.
Checked your little hidden replies or
whatever. My DMs. And I gotta... just read the date and the words that this... I'm going to say his full name, actually, because these cowards also always have private accounts.
Yeah.
They send these things and they have private accounts. So Connor Odell sent me this. Read the date of the first one and what it says, and then read the date of the other one. Okay. So read it. No, I'm saying read it out loud. Yeah.
Heard your nose gets XM radio. Can you confirm?
What day was that sent?
It was sent on January 4th, 2021.
So that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
A little over 2 years ago. He has not reached out to me since.
And
then yesterday.
And then he reached out yesterday and he goes, anyone ever tell you that you look like Squidward's house?
What is Squidward's house, Damonza?
Oh, geez. It's a little...
Let me see.
It's a house.
I know.
It's a face. It's like one of those like one of those face sculptures that are in some other country. They're like...
Oh, Easter Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like the... Okay, that's
I'm
not
surprised
a bad
he didn't
one.
just say Squidward.
I know. People always say I look like Squidward, which is mean, but I know what that one is. So those are the totems on
That's
Easter
actually
Island.
not bad. Like, I haven't seen the house in a minute.
Yeah, that's not that bad. But, I mean, this guy DM'd me once 2 years ago making fun of my nose, and then just fired off another one 2 years later.
He's not one of those guys that's on it, like, every 3 days or something like that. Like, that guy's obviously, he seems like he's got a life. He hates on you a little bit.
Okay.
Like, when he's got the time.
Can I tell you one super nerdy thing, and then we can get back to the show?
Let's go.
The reason I could pull that Easter Island thing so quickly is when I was in first grade. Yes. Maybe second grade. I think it was first grade, though. You know how schools like have spelling bees, and then the winner of the spelling bee moves on, like regional and then national, whatever. There also used to be, maybe there still is, a geography bee. And you would compete against your grade, and then everyone would compete for the winner of the school. This is a true story. And I say I was in first grade. I was in third grade at the oldest, but I think it was first grade. It doesn't matter because I know it was when I went to Catholic school. So I went to St. Thomas More. And I obviously won my grade's geography bee. But then they put all of the grade winners on stage in the auditorium together in front of the school, and we all competed to be the school champion. But the school went up to 8th grade. So I'm up there. No, I was in first grade because I was the youngest. And it's like we have little whiteboards. I remember this vividly. And there was a question about like what agreement allows, this is again the early 90s, that was recently, signed into law, allows trade between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. And my dad was a union guy, so I remember him talking about NAFTA a lot, North American Free Trade Agreement. I wrote it on my whiteboard, and like the 7th grader and the 5th grader missed it. So now it's like me and 5 kids, but I'm 7 years old, and I'm like, I'm going to win this god dog thing. And I don't remember what the next question was, but I do know it was down to 3 of us, me, an 8th grader, and somebody else. And if I win, I move on to like compete in the, Kansas City geography bee. I'm so excited, man. And the question was, what nation is known for its totems, the giant heads whatever. And I had no idea. And the answer was Easter Island. And now to this day, I've wanted to go there, wanted to see him whenever I see it. So that the Squidward pull, that's what his house was modeled after.
Yeah.
Those totems on Easter Island. Who knows?
They're about to pull up a picture.
All right, let me see the picture, you jerks. Yeah, that's the exact picture I just saw. I don't think that's that bad. All right, this is not great content. Hold on. Before we move on, I have to figure out what those things are exactly called. Easter Island statues. Those things. Those are the statues on Easter Island.
Yeah, so different.
And they're also, they were made 1,000 years ago. They started making them 1,000 years ago, and then they started Rapa Nui. And then they stopped making them about 400 years ago. All right, we can get to more interesting things. Go ahead.
All right, so after dumping Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim stepped away, the Cardinals announced that they are looking to trade their superstar wide receiver Deandre Hopkins. Last year, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Adams were all big-name wide receivers traded that paid immediate dividends.
Mm-hmm.
Someone is going all in on Hopkins. Where's the best fit for him?
All right, let me just say this real quick. I'd be a little nervous about going all in on Hopkins in this regard. So, A.J. Brown, young guy, ending his rookie deal when he was traded.
What? When he was young.
No. A.J. Brown was traded this offseason.
Who's the guy on the Cardinals? A.J. Green?
No. A.J. Green's the guy on the Cardinals. He's old as could be.
I was like,
yeah, A.J. Brown young. Devontae not young, but coming off one of his most productive seasons. Tyreek Hill, kind of football middle-aged, but coming off back-to-back awesome seasons. Nuke, coming off his 2 worst seasons. Missed time. Last 2 seasons, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns combined. That used to be 1 season for him. So that part makes me a little anxious. The obvious fit would be Cleveland, reuniting with Deshaun Watson for a team that needs receivers. But they don't have the picks because they traded them all for Deshaun Watson.
Right.
I think the Giants make a lot of sense. They need a receiver desperately. I know people are going to say Baltimore, but I don't think Baltimore's going to invest those resources in a receiver they haven't up to this point. Belichick loves him, and might make a move for him. He's an excellent player, but he also has this weird thing. He won't practice. He, refuses to practice. And he's notorious for being, the only guy in the league that can perform at the level he performs at without basically ever going through a full practice. Just hates to practice. And Bill O'Brien, when he was in Houston, couldn't stand that, and it's one of the reasons they traded him. Now, they got nothing for him, and it hasn't hurt him with the Cardinals. He's a unique guy, and it's a unique spot. He's an excellent player, but it's not quite as much of a no-brainer as I think some people are making it out to be. All right, time for a game.
All right, so we're back to this or that.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time we played this. Actually, probably a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Reports are that Rams coach Sean McVay is thinking about leaving the sidelines in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
After suffering the worst Super Bowl hangover of all time, McVay doesn't seem thrilled with the idea of rebuilding. If McVay leaves the Rams, is he A, quitter, or B, a genius?
Well, I'll go with genius. I won't call him a quitter. What I will say is this. I give the Rams credit. They won the Super Bowl. However, if that Super Bowl win ends up resulting in that team being in the absolute wilderness for the next half decade or more,
right?
That was an expensive way to win, man.
Right.
So you don't have draft picks because you've traded them away. You don't first-round picks. You haven't had in the last few years. Don't have the next few years. Donald might retire. You paid Stafford all that money. This year, Goff was better and healthier than Stafford. And if McVay walks, you're just done. You're just hoping Cooper Kupp comes back healthy,
right.
But Jalen Ramsey is trending down. Aaron Donald's flirting with retirement. You don't have any great young players. And if the coach is like, I don't want to be a part of this, it does. Now, again, you won the Super Bowl. So it's fine. But remember how close they were to blowing that Bucs game in the divisional round and how close they were to losing against the Niners and the Bengals in the Super Bowl. If they hadn't won the Super Bowl, they would still be in this bad of a position. Then it's a total disaster.
Right.
They were up 28-3 or 27-3 on the Bucs in the divisional round. And then they just started turning the ball over every single possession, and they almost lost. Can you imagine if they had blown that lead, lost that game, then had this year and McVay leaves? Oh, my. Now, I do think McVay would be exceptional on television. I'm not sure he really wants to do TV. I think it's that he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. But you guys put yourself in this position to go all in to win that Super Bowl. You won it, but that is an expensive way to do it if you're now going to go from a team. It's not like you were worlds away from winning Super Bowl IV. You'd been to one a few years prior. It's very fascinating what they've done, and I think because this year was so bad, other teams might be less likely to try to follow that model. All right, next.
Moments after our show wrapped up on Monday, Cliff Kingsbury was fired by the Cardinals. The way I see it, he only has two avenues from here. Cliff Kingsbury's next job will be Pat's offensive coordinator or Gosling's stunt double.
Okay. Patriots offensive coordinator is an interesting one. Gosling's stunt double is, I'm not sure,
Ryan Gosling?
No, I know who he is. I appreciate that. I just don't know which one of our
I thought you were
wonderful producers is, working out their B-list comedy routine on the podcast. Like, oh, let me throw this little zinger in there. But sorry guys. Listen. He was promoted a job too high a couple times. He's not a head coach. He wasn't a head coach in college. He was, but he wasn't any good. He had multiple NFL quarterbacks, including Patrick Mahomes, and he couldn't be above 500. He's not a head coach in the NFL. He just flatly isn't. And so Pat's offensive coordinator makes sense if that's what they want to, the route they want to go. I think they might try to hire Bill O'Brien, but he's not an NFL head coach, and I don't think he's going to get another NFL head coaching job for a very, very long time, if ever. All right, next.
All right, the inaugural NFLPA All-Pro team dropped yesterday, and you seem to think there were some snubs. I think we're going to show a tweet on this main screen.
Yeah, there were a couple snubs that, to me, jumped out. If we don't want to show the tweet, it's all right. I said Micah Parsons snubbed, but go ahead.
Maybe the players should leave the list-making to the professionals, huh? The biggest NFLPA All-Pro snub is Micah Parsons or Tyreek Hill.
Okay, so these are the two ones that jump out at you. It's also weird the way they did their list. Sorry, I stretch my legs. They only did 2 wide receivers and 2 corners, even though we're in a league where everybody's in nickel all the time with 3 corners because teams are running 3 wide receivers. So, and they included a fullback, even though very few teams actually use a fullback. So
right.
That part of it's a little odd, if I'm being honest. Those, though, were the 2 big snubs. So you had 2 edge rusher spots. Nicky Bosa has to be one of them. The question is, who has to be the other one? I think it has to be Micah Parsons. They put on Myles Garrett. I think Myles Garrett's a tremendous player. I think Micah Parsons was better than him this year. The wide receivers, one of them has to be Justin Jefferson. They put on Devontae Adams. I think Tyreek was better. Now, Devontae led the league in touchdowns and had 1,500 yards.
Right.
And it's not like Derek Carr's a great player. But I think Tyreek was more impactful. Sorry about that, guys. Excuse me. With that said, Devontae over Tyreek is more defensible, in my opinion, than Myles Garrett over Micah Parsons. So I think the biggest snub was Micah Parsons. Next.
All right, the regular season is over, but that doesn't mean the coaches in the playoffs are safe. We already talked about Mike McCarthy's jobs being at risk, but both Chargers head coach Brandon Staley and Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel are rumored to be on the hot seat as well. The coach more likely to get fired is Staley or McDaniel. I'm going with Staley.
Why?
Just because of last week.
Last week didn't help him. I don't think either of these guys gets fired,
Yeah,
for the record.
to be honest.
The more likely one, though, is Mike McDaniel. Here's why.
That's the
Dolphins coach.
young guy. Yeah, right.
And I like him. I think he's good. I think if he got fired, he'd probably get another job. You know what seems to be bubbling back to the surface a bit? Sean Payton and Tom Brady teaming up in Miami.
So this has nothing to do with McDaniels.
It would be that, right. It would be that Sean Payton and Brady wanted to be together. The only reason it didn't happen was the Flores lawsuit. The whole thing, it got scuttled. They went with Mike McDaniel. It was all going great. Then they went 8-3, and then from 8-3 to 8-8. The family that owns the Chargers is notoriously pretty cheap, so I don't know that they're going to want to fire another head coach and pay him out. And also Staley, it should be noted. I mean, they made the play. Like Staley, I think he has hurt his stock, obviously. But I also think we've got to be fair about what in a league where it's hard to find quality coaches. He was 9-8 last year, and they missed the playoffs by a tiebreaker. And he was 10-7 this year, despite being ravaged with injuries. So he's above 500. He's made the playoffs. I don't think they're going to fire him 2 years in when he's above 500 both years. But I don't think they should fire Mike McDaniel. I think McDaniel's a good coach. But I mean, Tua's been hurt twice. Teddy's been hurt twice. Skylar Thompson got hurt once, and McDaniel's gotten ravaged by quarterback injuries. But if Sean Payton and Tom Brady want to go there, that's bad news for Tua and McDaniel. All right, next.
All right, if you look at point differential, it's a miracle the -3 Vikings and -6 Giants made it this far.
It's unbelievable, yep.
Their game a few weeks back could have gone either way, with the Vikings kicking a 61-yarder with the time expiring to win. All I know is at the end of it, one of these teams will clearly be frauds. The team most likely to be exposed as frauds is the Giants or the Vikings.
All right, we're going to do our pick show later today, and you guys will see it tomorrow. Spoiler alert, I'm picking the Vikings. But my answer, as far as be exposed as frauds, my answer is also the Vikings, because here's why. If the Vikings beat the Giants, no one's going to call the Giants frauds. They're going to be like, yeah, that's what's supposed to happen. They're on the road. They weren't supposed to be here. Nobody's going to be like, I knew the Giants were no good. The Giants have overachieved. No one thinks they're awesome. But if the Giants beat the Vikings, people will be like, I told you that 13-4 was fake. That team's no good, all of it. You know what I mean? So I don't think the Giants are eligible to be considered frauds because nobody thinks they're great. All right, last.
All right. Netflix dropped a trailer for quote-unquote Full Swing, a Drive to Survive type show for the PGA Tour. They're also dropping a tennis one tomorrow called Breakpoint. Meanwhile, J.J. Watt's retirement was chronicled on in-season Hard Knocks. I'm having an aneurysm.
Yeah.
The in-season sports docs market is oversaturated or underrated.
I'm going to say oversaturated, but it also might be underrated because I don't watch any of these. I haven't seen Drive to Survive, which everyone loves, the F1 show. I don't watch Hard Knocks. I don't watch any of that. There's a lot of it, but I don't watch it. So I don't know if it's properly rated, underrated, any of it. What's up? You seem confused.
It's just like racing NASCARs, but like with those Formula One cars, fastest cars in the world.
Yeah, the open wheel.
Right.
People, Damonza, love that show. That show, which has been on for a few seasons now, is directly credited with, for the first time ever, Formula One being super popular in America. People fell in love with the show, and they got favorite drivers because of it. It was evidently incredibly well done. I've just never watched it. Whenever people are going to mock me. If I'm not watching a show with my wife or like a series we're watching, and it's like at night, I'm like, what do I want to watch? Turn on Netflix, turn on any of these streaming services. I just watch old poker tournaments. Try to hone my craft a bit. The old Poker Go subscription. Watch
Poker Go.
Yeah, $10 a month.
$2?
Hanks, $10 a month.
Okay.
Brent Hanks, Jeff Platt, do commentary for a lot of it. The great Nick Schulman does great commentary. My guy Ali Najad, who I was supposed to work with potentially at some point, does some commentary. It was Super High Roller Bowl. But here's the thing. They just had the Poker Go Tour Championship. Here's the thing that you would really laugh at me about. So, like, when poker used to be on TV all the time, they would take, like, 8 hours of poker, edit it, give you the best 15 hands in a 40-minute thing.
Right.
What I'm watching is, like, the Poker Go Championship, Damonza. When you click play on it, it said 7 hours and 28 minutes. And it's just 7 hours and 28 minutes with no editing of every hand. And I'll watch the whole thing. I'll have to break it up into pieces. But, like, when I finish this podcast and get in the car to go to work,
you're going to watch it on your
I'll
phone?
probably watch, get a nice little 10 minutes in. I learn new strategies, figure some stuff out, watch the best players in the world. So I I can't say I don't have the time to watch these documentaries. I just use my time, in other ways. Just is what it is. All right, we got questions from you guys in the chat. We'll answer them next. What's right? All right, welcome back in. Let's get to your guys' listener questions and viewer questions, I should say. Damonza, go ahead.
Houselton said you should be able to apply for a placement online. They let you do everything online now in Missouri.
So that's about Damonza's driver's license. That would be great. And he did try that, and he sent in the stuff. Here's the thing. Damonza sent in all the paperwork, and then the day he sent it in, I saw him, and I was like, did you send that stuff in? He said, yeah. And I just said to him, I was like, do you include any money? And he had this such a, like, despondent look. He was like, no. I probably should have. But it didn't say anywhere on there
requirements
how much to send. And I do wonder, we were talking about this off the air, because Damonza has a valid Missouri driver's license, but is moving to California and has misplaced the physical license and doesn't want to have to fly to Kansas City, wait in line at the DMV, go through that whole rigmarole.
Misplaced might be a stretch.
Okay.
It's almost stolen from you from the government.
Okay.
If you think about it.
No. Let's not think about it, and let's not tell the story of the context of you losing it. I mean, if you want to, you can. I'd recommend against it.
It's really not horrible. I mean,
it's not horrible. It doesn't paint you in the greatest light. And not stolen by the government. It's not. It doesn't matter. Damonza.
State. Sorry.
Damonza lost his license in a vehicle. Well, now it sounds like it was a cop.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't. Sorry about that. That wasn't good. Damonza, right before the podcast started, Damonza hurt his shoulder badly and had to take an ambulance to a local hospital.
And they asked me for my driver's license and never gave it back.
Never gave it back to him. So that's, I guess, the other thing. Hey, everybody, if you're a New York City paramedic and you're just holding on to an old license, go ahead and just mail it to Trentage. And so he needs one. What we were discussing off the air was maybe they can't charge for a license in Missouri, because I've had to get an extra license, it's like $8. But in Missouri now, you have to have ID to vote. So maybe part of the way they got around that being a poll tax is by making licenses free as long as you filled out the proper paperwork. I don't know. All right, next.
Insultive asks, I was going to say insulation. Insultive asks, who would be more successful, Mac Jones with Shanahan or Purdy with Belichick?
Mac Jones with Shanahan.
Okay. I like that question.
Yeah, I think any quarterback would be successful with Shanahan. I think truly any quarterback would be. I think Mac Jones would just be a slightly worse version of Jimmy G with Shanahan. I really do. Okay. All right, next.
Shad Jameson asks, why hasn't Andy Reid had any Coach of the Year consideration, especially after all the Tyreek was the offense talk?
Yeah,
he's never won Coach of the Year since he's been in KC. This should be the year.
Listen, I actually think Shanahan should win Coach of the Year this year. They're 13-4 and they're on their third different quarterback, so I think he should win Coach of the Year. But I do think Coach of the Year has a bias against teams that are expected to be good. And so you're become a victim of your own success. Like Brian Daboll might win it. Why? Because they've overachieved. You know what I mean? Kevin O'Connell, rookie coach for the Vikings, might win it because they've overachieved. Belichick doesn't win it often. Andy Reid doesn't win it often. It's a weird award where you get it's not really always about who did the best coaching job. It's kind of about who did the most surprising coaching job. All right, last one.
Gabe Goodwin asked, bigger regret, losing nerd contest because you missed Easter Island or losing relay race because you faked injury? Losing nerd contest.
Yeah, Gabe's rude. You know, I'd say it to my face, Gabe, but God knows Gabe didn't show up for work today, so he's just watching from his palatial estate on the beach. Oh, he's there! Oh, no, Gabe's there. Oh, I got burnt. When they showed the control room earlier, he wasn't in there.
He wasn't.
Oh, God. Oh, what a bad beat for me. So
it's a half day for Gabe.
The bigger regret, listen, I should be a good person and say the bigger regret's losing. What he's referencing is we were in the state finals of the 4x800 in high school.
And you started acting like you were limping, but you had ran the fastest one that you've ever ran.
Yeah, I thought I was doing terribly, and I didn't want to be blamed for our team falling off the podium. So with like 200 yards left, I faked a hamstring injury and limped it in, but I actually was running the best I'd ever run. I still have like that weird feeling in the pit of my stomach about that, like regret. And I mean, on that team was the current mayor of Kansas City. For real, Quentin Lucas was on that team. My good friend Jason Backstrom. I mean, my girlfriend at the time, her brother Eric Blatt. I cost them all a medal.
Failed the team.
He was my best friend,
Failed
my girlfriend's brother, and my good friend Quentin, who's now the mayor of Kansas City. But the answer is the Easter Island question. It still haunts me.
Okay.
I feel like I would have made, like, the news if a first grader won a school-wide geography bee.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know what I mean? Maybe it all worked out for the best. I feel like that was like a fork-in-the-road moment of my life. And I just didn't know about Easter Island. No one else make that mistake, though. All right, this is a good show. Good job, pal.
Thank you, sir.
Once again, anybody with any connections at the Missouri DMV, you know who I should probably be able to hit up?
Your dad?
No, the mayor of Kansas City. Should be able to call that a favor in. My goodness gracious. I donated to his campaign. I actually didn't. You want to know something that's really embarrassing, and then we'll move on? But he knows this. I told him this. I admitted it. Quentin is the mayor of Kansas City. He was my good friend in high school. He and I have been buddies for 25 years.
Yeah, I know what this is.
When he was, I don't think you do know. When he was running for mayor, a guy named Jason Kander was also running in the beginning. Jason then dropped out of it. He was dealing with some PTSD from the war. And Kander, I thought, like, might be president one day.
Okay.
Quentin might be president one day, by the way. And even though Quentin was my dear friend, and I went all the way back with him early in the race, I was kind of rooting for Kander. I underestimated Quentin, to his credit. I thought, because there's like this whole primary, I thought Kander was more likely to be able to beat some of the other people that I really didn't want to be mayor of my hometown. And I didn't know that Quentin could do it. And instead, Quentin trounced him and has done a great job. And so one day I had to DM Quentin. It was like a confession time. I kind of was supporting the other guy in the beginning, but then I came over to your side.
It's
not
really
great.
Be your own people, man.
Yeah, really do be your own people. With that said, if we get some help at the Missouri DMV for Damonza's license, that'd be great. Great show, everybody. Mostly me and Damonza and Matt and Victor and Daniel and Kara. Gabe just threw in one snide question while drinking his coffee. Talk to you guys on tomorrow for the gambling show. What's right? Hey, it's Nick Wright. Thank you so much for watching. Please do us a favor. Click subscribe. It helps my ego, and Damonza's got a financial bonus writing on a number of YouTube subscribers, so help him out. And also, click the bell. I don't know what the bell does, but they tell me to tell you to click the bell. And your audio listeners, people that have commutes, drives, whatever it is, subscribe to the podcast as well, wherever you get the podcast. Same show, just in your ears instead of through your eyes. All that. Check it out. Appreciate y'all.